Webb Floyd again. This time I'm going to talk pavement braking, again on behalf of Miss Haley Bell. Next slide, please.
She owes you a beard.
So training objective, she does not have a beard. She's
No,
not sure.
she owes you a beard.
Oh, she owes me a beard. Well, she said not as much beard. Anyway, training objective, we're going to learn how to brake some pavement. Next slide, please. Safety. So again, familiarize yourself with the equipment, locate the horns, wear your seatbelt. When we talk about the bayonet breaker here, you're going to turn the backhoe seat backwards. So run the hose side of it, make sure you adjust the seat so you can reach everything well. The spotter needs a helmet, eye pro, ear pro, and we like to wear safety vests so you're easy to see. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about a couple of different braking techniques here. The first of which is the corporal bayonet breaker, which is an attachment for a backhoe arm. It's attachable, to our knowledge, to any existing backhoe that has enough boom and stick to handle it. You can see it there circled in the red on the right side. But what it does is it gives you an opportunity to brake and excavate interchangeably. So when you boom that arm out, you can curl the bucket back out of the way, work the toggle inside the cab that would use a thumb if you had a thumb on the bucket, and that's going to swing the bayonet breaker down, and you can use it to brake pavement. We'll show some pictures of it in action here in a little bit. Next slide, please. So another attachment is the CTL breaker attachment, which you've seen several times in the past. It's a very versatile attachment. However, the CTL breaker attachments really don't have enough backbone to them to do sustained braking in full thickness airfield concrete pavement. If you're in 18 inches of concrete pavement and you're braking a multiple crater sequence, you're probably going to burn that hammer up before you're done. And it's not quite as efficient as a backhoe breaker is. So it's got limited power and limited reach relative to most of your full-size backhoe breakers. But it's lighter and smaller, and it can be readily dropped and switched for another attachment. So there are benefits to the CTL breaker attachments. In general, they're fine for asphalt pavement. It doesn't require quite as much power and energy to break up that asphalt pavement. Next slide, please. So you do have a couple of Hemi options as well. You can see there on the left, the hand jackhammer, not very much fun, but it does work. Again, it's going to be very limited in your thicker pavements. On the right side there, JCB does actually make an attachment that fits directly onto the Hemi. I'm not aware that you have any, but they do exist. Do y'all have any in your motor pool? Got a couple around maybe? Okay, but again, the downside to that is you're going to have to drop that breaker attachment to reattach your bucket when you're ready to excavate. But it does have power relative to a skid steer breaker for full thickness airfield pavement. Next slide, please. So I'm not an equipment operator. We brought two expert equipment operators with us that are going to provide the equipment training tomorrow on the drop zone. But just wanted to put this up here in case everybody's not familiar with the terminology. You got the loader on the bucket on the right side, the tractor with the cab, our stabilizer legs, and then on the hose side, the backhoe side, you've got the boom and the stick and the bucket. Next slide, please. So as far as the process here, we'll talk briefly about the braking method. You want to position the backhoe with the outrigger legs down at a point where you have easy access and you have reach with the boom and the stick to drop your excavated debris on one side if you're doing the braking and the excavating interchangeably. As far as braking goes, you want to begin to brake near the crater opening at the center of the marked area that's already been sawed out. Don't start braking near the saw cut joint, start braking there towards the center. In general, you want to brake full depth as well. When you hammer that breaker through, you'll either feel it fall through the bottom of the slab, or you're going to bottom it out until the housing for the chisel touches the pavement or almost touches the pavement. As a general rule of thumb, you want to break into the largest pieces that your excavator bucket can handle for efficiency. You don't want to break into a bunch of small pieces that are more difficult to grab with the bucket. You want them as large as are practical, that you can maybe even flip them back out of the hole rather than grabbing them. I think there's a previous picture, I think it may have been where he had the hand jackhammer. You could see next to him the whole corner of that crater was flipped out by the Hemi. It wasn't even broken, you just flipped the whole corner out. You want to keep that breaker straight up and down. You don't want to break at any sort of weird angles and jam it or damage the chisel point. And you want to do your best to stay at least 1 foot off of the joints while you're braking so we don't damage the parent pavement around the crater you're trying to fix. The spotter is going to give you guidance on braking locations as well as monitor the joints while you brake to make sure that you're not doing any damage. If so, they're gonna try to stop you and keep that from happening. Next slide, please. So as far as personnel goes, we're down to 2 here. We have a breaker operator and a breaker spotter. Next slide. I think that's it.